In this video, I'm going to discuss the challenges for newcomers trying to rent their first home, specifically the first and last deposit, first and last month's deposit. I'm going to play a short video, and after that's finished, I'm going to come back and maybe give you an overview of the process and how we got to where we are now.
Her small one-bedroom apartment in downtown Toronto costs Lorena Portugal roughly $2,300 a month in rent. But when she was first trying to find a place, she paid a lot more up front, 4 months worth.
Obviously, it shakes your stability.
Portugal and her boyfriend moved to Toronto from Peru 10 months ago and expected this to happen. Friends had told them stories of landlords suggesting payment of 6, even 12 months all at once.
You don't have an option. Because if you mention, hey, I can't afford to pay you 4 months in advance, okay, just then look to another landlord or to another building.
Rafaela Cruz heard it from several real estate agents.
In our case, he was telling us, you don't have credit score, you don't have a job in Canada.
CBC News spoke with multiple newcomers to Canada who said it was the only way to secure a home in an increasingly competitive and expensive housing market. In Ontario, it's illegal to ask for more than first and last month's rent, but there's a gray area.
There's nothing stopping a tenant from offering to pay 5 months, 6 months, 7 months up front.
Some lawyers say many landlords are trying to protect themselves against the risk of tenants failing to pay, but that means the most vulnerable won't have a place to live.
If you think about refugee claimants, they take the hardest of the cake because they are the ones that are coming from displacement. They're the ones that might come with very precarious mental health and financial conditions.
Renters in Ontario can complain to the province's landlord and tenant board, but there's a months-long backlog to get a hearing, let alone a decision. So many are opting to do what they can to get a roof over their heads now. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, so you've watched the video. Let's go over the main points and give you an overview so you understand how we got to this point. Now, Canada admits hundreds of thousands of people, new people, every year. And over a number of years, housing has not kept up with demand. Now, the government is doing various things to try and balance that, the people coming in and the available housing, but we'll see what happens in the next few years. Let's talk about landlords and corporations. Let me start by just letting you know, whether you know already or not, the majority of housing is provided not by the Canadian government, but by private landlords and corporations. So private landlords like someone like myself or me or you, who will buy 1 or 2 properties and rent them out, or corporations who will have a number of properties and or apartment buildings. So these are the entities that provide the housing, the majority of housing in this country. When you make your application, if you're making an application with a private landlord, there's usually more flexibility. Sometimes they're a private landlord, the owners will have someone manage it for them, and they're working within certain criteria. But they're a little bit more flexible. Corporations, typically a large corporation, they have a directive from the owners or the shareholders, and they give them the criteria and they work by that. So a lot less flexibility. Now, what do they require? Typically a job letter, and that's a job letter for a job in Canada. Credit profile. If you've got a job, then I want a copy of a payslip. And these are the things that you will require just for the application. So in many cases, someone who's new, who doesn't have any of those things, you will only be able to fill in the personal details with respect to your name and everything else, but you won't be able to complete the rest of the application. In that case, you may be rejected in most cases. And this is why people are opting to offer multiple months of rent as a way of convincing the landlord that they can pay. Because one of the biggest concerns of a landlord is having a tenant come in and then having to go through the eviction process, which takes months in a lot of cases. That's really their main concern. And also to clarify on the last segment of the video, where the lady spoke about going to the landlord and tenant board. Well, the landlord and tenant board does not really apply in that instance. Landlord and tenant board is really there to settle disputes. So if you're looking for a place and you're not able to find somewhere, the landlord and tenant board can't help you in that case. They're there after the fact. So if you're already in an apartment or in a home and there's a dispute, then there's procedures that the landlord and the tenant have to adhere to in order to resolve them. That's the process that takes months or could take months to resolve. The landlords don't want to get into that scenario, so that they get very, very picky as to who they rent to, and they can be because there's so much demand. I hope this in the previous video actually clarifies it. If you have any questions, just put it in the description, and I'll try my best to answer it. Take care. See you next video.